logged into MySpace the other day.
Wait. That means you had a MySpace.
I did.
To log into.
I haven't been on my MySpace in probably 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Here are a few things I learned from looking at my old MySpace page.
Yeah.
Firstly, middle school is a time no one should look back on. For one, I've learned I used to be super thin. I used to be
You're
like...
kind of a skinny kid. I was skinny, though, in school.
Even
as well.
before we met, like, no, if you saw this picture, you'd be like, holy shit, like, I wasn't just normal. I was like...
Thin.
I was like, people would look at you and kind of go, you need to eat a little bit. Like, I was like that.
I was always like an athletic thin, though.
2, I used to think it was... Oh, God. I used to think it was really funny to make my own motivational posters.
Were they actually motivational?
No. But they're all not funny. And 3, I went through this period where I was, edgy.
No.
And I have a picture on there where I'm in this black jacket and have these really tiny glasses, kind of like Matrix glasses.
You do?
And I look like the biggest douche in the world.
You are the biggest douche in the world, automatically.
Yeah, that was a rough time.
Can't believe no one liked you.
This is sad because it's true. I was not well liked.
La 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 la. Here we go. It's the Bible reloaded, tragic explosion, like Jesus and Moses, but it's Hugo and Jake. The Bible is jaded, and most of it taken, so get educated with Hugo and Jake. Pull up you and stop what you're doing. It's Bible reloaded time. They call it debated, the theists will hate it. I'm talking to taken, but it's Hugo and Jake. So I'm with the show then, it's not candy coated. It's the Bible reloaded with Hugo and Jake.
Hello everyone, I'm Hugo.
And they call me Jake.
And this is the Bible Reloaded.
I imagined I had like a duster and a cowboy hat and walked into a bar. It's like, they call me Jake.
You would make a really bad cowboy.
I'd make an excellent cowboy.
You can't herd cows.
No, but I could
you
shoot-
can't do the
I can
responsibilities
shoot
that
people
cowboys...
without feeling remorse.
Very few shots were taken from cowboys.
Were taken from cowboys.
You know what I mean.
No, I don't. What are you talking about?
Very few cowboys shot people for no reason.
Yeah,
If
but
you
I
were-
would, and I'd be feared among the people.
You'd be lynched for murder.
No, I would not. I would shoot the
there
lynchers.
was a justice system in the West.
Yeah, but I'm going back in time.
No, I'm saying back in time there was too. I assumed you had a time machine. If you don't have a time machine, then this is a stupid plan. Anyways, last time a couple things happened. God killed a dude for touching the Ark of the Covenant because it was about to fall, and he wanted to save it.
Well, I mean, that's what I would do if, like, someone's like, no, don't let the milk fall, and they caught the milk before it dropped all over my kitchen floor, I'd slap them like, fuck you, man, part of the plan.
And then God made a covenant with David and basically said, all of your descendants shall be numerous and blah blah blah, and Christians think that it's about Jesus, but really it's not. Anyways.
I prefer a milky floor.
Anyways. Today we're going to get into David's military conquests and some other stuff, because David is a bloodthirsty individual who does not stop until he conquers all. He's like Alexander the Great, except not
great.
Not historical.
Or great. And he didn't have an awesome mentor.
2 Samuel chapter 8. David's victories. In the course of time, David defeated the Philistines and subdued them, and he took Ammah from the control of the Philistines. Again, the Philistines are defeated and completely wiped out yet again. This has happened. David did this. I'm pretty sure Saul did that.
Yeah.
I think Samson did that as well.
Yeah.
Several of them.
Philistines!
The Philistines keep getting defeated. Basically.
Lamentations.
David also defeated the Moabites, which, again, they've been defeated before.
Yeah.
It's like the people who wrote this only knew so many tribes that were around them, because that's how it was, so they couldn't think of other enemies to write about.
But luckily he gets creative in the ways that he kills them, so it's cool.
He made them lie down on the ground and measured them off with a length of cord. Every 2 lengths of them were put to death, and every 3rd length was allowed to live, so the Moabites became subject to David and brought him tribute. So...
He's just a fucking sociopath.
I'd like to think David said, hey, what's the most fucked up thing I could do? Decimation, that thing the Romans are gonna do someday?
It's kind of like that, with rope.
But with, instead of a 10th, it's 2/3. Let's take the word decimate, the literal meaning, and make it mathematically worse. But seriously, that's pretty fucked up. And it says that they gave tribute to him, which I think implies he sort of enslaved them.
Yeah.
So all the talk they give about being enslaved in Egypt, they don't really give a fuck about slavery, as long as it's not them. Very little empathy.
Indeed.
Moreover, David defeated Hadadezer, son of Rahab, king of Zobah, when he went to restore the monument at the Euphrates River. So he's just going to restore a monument, and David's like, fuck you. David captured 1,000 of his chariots. 1,000? That's impressive. He also captured 7,000 charioteers. So what, were there 7 charioteers to each chariot? How did that work?
It's like they were all like the clown cars of chariots. And they're like, isn't this hilarious? Oh, it's really uncomfortable and terrible for battle.
And 20,000 foot soldiers. So they've captured 1,000 chariots, 7,000 charioteers, and 20,000 normal soldiers. So somewhere they're holding 27,000 people.
Yeah.
It
seems inaccurate.
It seems very inaccurate. I don't think they knew math.
I feel like that's enough to launch a counterattack. If you were indeed part of the 27,000
Like, if you're
people.
like, hey, you know, we're 20,000 people in this camp, which is a huge camp, by the way. 20,000 people are here. That's impressive. How are they feeding us? Also, let's attack them.
And then he fucks up the horses.
He hamstrung all but 100 of the chariot horses. So
He didn't kill him. He just hamstrung him. He's like, fuck those horses. Look at them wobble.
What did the horses do to you, David?
Be delicious.
They're just doing their jobs. They're trying to horse.
Horses just want a horse, do horse things. Like, what do the horses do? I don't know horses very well.
They trot occasionally.
They gallop.
They do horse dancing with Mitt Romney occasionally.
They do.
Remember that?
Hey, he's running again.
Hey, people from 2012. Remember that reference?
I miss Mitt Romney. Glad he's coming back.
When the Arameans of Damascus came to help Hadadezer, king of Zobah, David struck down 22,000 of them.
Personally,
yeah.
He's like, you stand there! And they're like, why? He's like, I'm David, and I will kill you. And then he killed 22,000 of them without repercussion.
He spun in a circle with his sword outstretched, and they just kept running
like
into
Zelda?
him. Yeah.
Neat.
When he put garrisons in the Aramean kingdom of Damascus, and the Arameans became subject to him and brought tribute, the Lord gave David victory wherever he went. So he's just enslaving everyone, which is interesting because the Lord seems to have a thing against slavery when it's the Hebrews.
Yeah. But you gotta understand that Hebrews are really difficult to be around for long periods of time because they're Hebrews.
So they just want people to stay around?
Yeah, they're just like, they just need friends.
Yeah. And I'd like to talk about this too, because it's good to occasionally talk about slavery in the Bible. I'm not saying different people at the time didn't also do this. Of course there were. When you conquered a region, you took them over and you took slaves and they kind of became subject to you, especially when you're talking about, let's say, Rome, which was of course later, but we're talking about the same general idea.
Kind of an investment in humans.
But the thing is, even though I could understand it at the time, the God of the Bible is supposed to be omnipresent and omniscient and should know absolute morality or whatever, if such a thing existed, which it's supposed to in the Bible. I don't think it does, but Christians do. Shouldn't he know this isn't okay?
Well,
if God exists, either he should know this isn't okay then, or we're wrong and it's still okay now.
That's a great point.
Or God changed his mind and he's not omniscient.
Or he's just fucked up and he's like, slavery. We'll undo it later, but only after we get a Roots.
Only after Roots, because I want to see OJ in a movie.
Well, OJ was in several movies, but he also wanted to see OJ and Reading Rainbow Guy mash up.
Like, I want to see Jordy, but I want to see him with his shirt off and whipped.
He just is into torture porn.
There's no more hardcore torture porn than slavery, because that's not just torture.
It's subjugation, and then generations of people.
Your entire family line is ruined.
Yeah.
It's look upon the rubble that is your future. It's done. And then you're just jerking off in the corner of the rubble of their future.
Why is my whole family's last name Jefferson? Well,
funny story. It's okay, they'll change it to Freeman. It's alright.
Oh, Morgan.
Verse 7. We're making good headway here.
Headway.
David took the gold shields that belonged to the officers of Hadadezer and brought them to Jerusalem.
Gold shields. Yeah. Not ideal for battle. Gold is very weak.
Mm-hmm. King David took a great quantity of bronze. When Tau, king of Hamash, heard that David had defeated the entire army of Hadadezer, he sent his son Joram to King David to greet him and congratulate him on his victory in the battle over Hadadezer when he had been at war with Tau. Joram brought with him articles of silver, of gold, and of bronze.
So basically they're just like, hey, you did well, here's some shiny stuff.
Also, I'd like to think they're like, we should it's like in Civilization when they're like, will you please give us $100,000 and we will not go to war with you?
And you're like, no, fuck that.
And fuck off, Gandhi. Fuck off, Gandhi.
That's for Civilization people.
Yeah.
Why is Gandhi in charge of armies? He would...
I'll tell you why. There's actually a real reason. For people who don't play Civilization, this isn't going to make any sense. Gandhi was actually supposed to be the most peaceful leader in his AI in the original Civilization.
Right.
A glitch in the game, however, made it, when you get later in the game, his morality rating mathematically dips into -1. One is supposed to be the most peaceful.
Really?
But it dips into -1, which then mathematically in the game's code made it revert to the maximum. So it was an accident that Gandhi is super fucked up in that game. And then they just ran with it because they thought it was funny.
That's super great.
Yeah. Verse 11, King David dedicated these articles to the Lord as he had done with the silver and the gold from all the nations he had subdued. He dedicated it to the Lord in the same way that someone might dedicate an Oscar to, like, their grandma, but it doesn't go to their grandma. It stays in their house, let's be honest. Edom and Moab, the Ammonites, and the Philistines and Amalek. He also dedicated the plunder taken from Hadadezer, son of Rehob, king of Zoah, and David became famous after he returned from the striking down 18,000 Edomites in the Valley of Salt.
He was already famous. How can you become famous again?
He's even more famous because there are fewer people, so as an aggregate, he is more famous. It's all in the math, Jake. It's all in the math.
I'm sorry.
He put garrisons throughout Edom, and all the Edomites became subjects to David. The Lord gave David victory wherever he went. So he's like a despot. Wherever he goes, he leaves troops and stormtroopers and is like, hey, keep these people in line according to my law. I'm David, the humble.
So the moral of chapter 8 of 2 Samuel is David wins at things a lot.
David's really good at subjugating others.
Yeah.
And then claiming the moral high ground.
Very, very good at it.
Now we move on to chapter 9, David and Mephibosheth.
But we're going to call him Meph.
We're going to call him Meph.
But not Meth. It's
Meph.
different.
Yeah.
Meph.
Just because if I'm going to try and pronounce that every time, we're going to be here all day.
And I don't
You
wanna-
won't. We'd have to edit it, but he'll be
don't-
here all day and it'll be awful.
I don't want to edit that shit.
David asked, is there anyone still left in the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake?
Okay, your boyfriend's dead. You gotta get over it. You can't Gus Fring this. You just gotta get over it.
Now there was a servant of Saul's household named Ziba. They summoned him to appear before David, and the king said to him, are you Ziba?
You're fucking... I love the Bible for this reason. It names someone, and then someone will ask the thing that they just answered. That's one of those things in post during Harry Potter. Like, someone's like, Ms. Rowling, we don't need that part. And she's like, okay. And then she made billions. You could have made billions.
The Bible has probably made more than billions.
Trillions!
In sales.
Yeah, but you could have made billions instead.
In fairness, the Bible had a head start. It was like the first book through the printing press, so
That was just Gutenberg.
give it like
Steve!
give it 1,000 years, Harry Potter will outsell the Bible.
I hope so. Be interesting.
At your service, he replied. The king asked, is there no one still alive from the house of Saul to whom I can show God's kindness?
You killed them all! It's your fault! That's like Americans being sad that all the buffalo are gone. You fucking killed them so you could kill the Indians.
Bummer.
You can't be nice to buffalo if they're dead.
Ziba answered the king, there is still a son of Jonathan. He is lame in both feet.
Oh wait, the kid that got dropped last episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was funny.
It's always funny when kids get crippled. I don't care what anyone says, it's hilarious.
Hodor.
Where is he, the king asked.
I don't know, probably sitting down somewhere. He's not running anywhere.
Ziba answered, he is at the house of Machir, son of Amiel, in Lo-Debar. Lo-Debar sounds
like Star Wars.
Lo-Debar, I was gonna say, it sounds like a 1980s, kind of like
Black
Lionel...
talk show host?
No, I was gonna say,
Oh.
it's like someone who sings very similar to Lionel Richie. And hear the
Lo-Debar.
Lo-Debar! And he sings like the person who sings Caribbean Queen.
I don't know how that goes.
Caribbean Queen, and we're sharing the same dream.
No, you should not.
And
You should
our
stop.
hearts will beat as one.
You don't sing well.
No more love on the run.
You're bad. You're really bad at that.
Oh, I didn't say it was. You said sing.
I didn't know I could command you.
Yeah.
That's like if you were my Pokemon. I choose you, Hugo Mon, and I'd throw you, and then you'd sing, and they wouldn't fall asleep. Instead, you would get dragon raged to death. And then I'd just keep you in ball purgatory forever after that, because you're basically a Magikarp.
What do I that means I evolve into the other
No,
thing.
you
though,
don't.
So. Okay.
This is your final form.
You held B
This
at
is
the wrong time, and now I'm just terrible
This is
forever.
your goddamn peak.
So King David had him brought from Lo-Debar from the house of Machir, son of Amiel. When Meph, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David, he bowed down to pay his honor. David said, Meph, at your service, he replied. Don't be afraid, David said to him, for I will surely show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat at my table. So you're gonna make me king? Oh, no. See, it's your land, but I'm the ruler of it.
Yeah.
I'm David, you cripple.
So, I mean, like, can we go do stuff together, or?
Are you gonna? How big's your penis?
I mean, I'm crippled from the waist down.
That's
It's
not a problem.
impressive.
I didn't ask if it worked. I asked how big it was.
Oh, like, well, there's a crook in it, so I can't really.
Meph bowed down and said, What is your servant that you should notice a dead dog like me?
Wow.
Oh, someone has self-esteem problems.
Well, it's probably the crippling.
Oh, probably. When the king summoned Ziba, Saul's steward, and said to him, I will give your master's grandson everything that belonged to Saul and his family, except for the palace and the land. You and your sons and your servants are to farm the land for him and bring in the crops, so that your master's grandson may be provided for. And Meph, grandson of your master, will always eat at my table. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants.
That's a lot of sons.
Too many sons. That's only 1.2 servants per person, too, so that's a problem. When Ziba said to the king, Your servant will do whatever my lord the king commands his servant to do, so Meph ate at David's table like the other king's sons. Meph had a young son named Micah. Oh, his dick must have worked. And all the members of Ziba's household were servants of Meph. And Meph lived in Jerusalem because he always ate at King David's table. He was lame in both feet.
Oh, he just nailed it at the end. Like, remember, he's got a defect.
Like, hey, all these good things happened to him, but don't forget, we're defining him by his disability. The Bible can never end on a strong note. It can never just be happy.
Like, not even the end of the whole Bible is happy. It's like, you're all gonna die in hellfire.
Amen. And then we're going to end on 2 Samuel chapter 10. David defeats the Ammonites. In the course of time, the king of the Ammonites died, and his son Hanun succeeded him as king. As monarchies work, David thought, I will show kindness to Hanam, son of Nahash, just as his father showed kindness to me. So David sent a delegation to express his sympathy to Hanam concerning his father.
Aw, he was so nice.
When David's men came to the land of the Ammonites, the Ammonite commander said to Hanan, their lord, Do you think David is honoring your father by sending envoys to you to express sympathy? Hasn't David sent them to you only to explore the city and spy it out and overthrow it?
Probably.
Probably.
Like, I think that's a valid. Even if David's intentions were to be like, yeah, I sorry, dude, and like I liked your dad, he was a cool guy. We went out and we got drunk a couple times together, hookers, the whole thing. Yeah, I think there's a really good reason to think we can't trust this motherfucker. He's insane. He will murder all of us.
Yeah, David brings this upon himself based on his previous behavior.
Yeah, I mean when you take 27,000 people hostage and then you murder 2/3 of their friends before that, like.
No one's gonna trust you. Why should people trust you? You're a terrible person.
Yeah.
So Hanan seized David's envoys, shaved off half of each man's beard, cut off their garments at the buttocks, and sent them away. That's awesome. The beard is obviously because you're supposed to keep a full-grown beard in...
And he's like, show me your butts when you walk into the desert.
When David was told about this, he sent messengers to meet the men, for they were greatly humiliated. The king said, Stay at Jericho till your beards have grown and then come back.
So several months.
I don't want to see your weird Jewish baby faces.
Just shave... Did they shave the other half at least?
No, now they have a permanent beard that is always twice as long on one side.
A weird double-decker beard thing.
When the Ammonites realized that they had become obnoxious to David, they hired 20,000 Aramean foot soldiers from Beth Rabab at Zobah. Can you just hire 20,000 soldiers a fortune in these days? Is that a thing? Probably didn't have to pay too much. Maybe some of them were captured by David at some point and were like, I just gotta get back at David. As well as the king of Makkah with 1,000 men, and also 12,000 men from Tob. On hearing this, David sent Joab out to the entire army of fighting men. The Ammonites came out and drew what?
An army of fighting men, assuming there's also an army of, like, weavers.
They just gotta weave. Weavers gotta weave. The Ammonites came out and drew up in battle formation at the entrance of the city gate, while the Arameans of Zoah and Rehob, and the men of Tob and Makkah, were by themselves in the open country. Joab saw that there were battle lines in front of him and behind him, so he selected some of the best troops in Israel and deployed them against the Arameans. He put the rest of the men under the command of Abishai, his brother, and deployed them against the Ammonites. Joab said, If the Arameans are too strong for me, then you are to come to my rescue, but if the Ammonites are too strong for you, then I will come to rescue you.
What if they're both too strong for either of us?
Well, that won't happen, though. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay.
Be strong and let us fight bravely for our people in the cities of our God. The Lord will do what is good in his sight. Then Joab and the troops with him advanced to fight the Arameans, and they fled before him. When the Ammonites realized that the Arameans were fleeing, they fled before Abishai and went inside the city. So Joab returned from the fighting the Ammonites and came to Jerusalem.
That was a boring battle.
There's like, oh shit's happening, run away. After the Arameans saw that they had been routed by Israel, they regrouped. Hadadezer had Arameans brought from beyond the Euphrates River. They went to Helam, with Shobach, the commander of the Hadadezer's army, leading them.
I'm starting to read this like a sci-fi novel.
Yeah, it almost you could just pretend they have laser weapons, and it doesn't even matter. You don't have to change anything.
Shobach, the commander of Hadadezer's army, leading them. And the mothership and alien things, grenades.
When David was told of this, he gathered all Israel, crossed the Jordan, and went into Helam. The Arameans formed their battle lines to meet David and fought against him, but they fled before Israel, and David killed 700 of their charioteers and 40,000 of their foot soldiers.
So 40,000?
Yeah.
That makes the Civil War look like shit.
There were way more people killed in the Civil War than that.
Like battles in the Civil War, I mean.
There were more people killed in battles in the Civil War
Gettysburg,
than that.
which was huge, but I'm talking like... The average battle in fucking the Civil War did not have 40,000 casualties on one side.
I don't know enough about the Civil War to say you're right or wrong.
Never mind. Like 15,000.
He also struck down Shobach, the commander of their army, and he died there.
I was getting a little attached to Shobach.
He sounds like a Klingon. He was probably a Klingon.
I don't know how
He slingshotted around the sun, and he was trying to get whales, but...
That's a terrible Trek joke.
When all the kings who were... Well, let's see, you get it, though.
Yeah.
When all the kings who were vassals of Hadadezer saw that they had been routed by Israel, they made peace with Israelites and became subject to them. We fucked up, guys. We're gonna be slaves now. Damn. I didn't want to be the slave race. So the Arameans were afraid to help the Ammonites anymore.
So this whole episode is basically about David getting slaves.
David just gets all the slaves.
He's a bastard.
Yeah, he is. I agree. For the time, assuming something like this may have happened, though I've read entire articles on the fact that there's not really any basis for the conquests of David, at least not on the scale that is presented in the Bible.
Well, there's not really evidence for David at all, so...
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I had thought previously that he probably was a historical figure, but there's no corroboration of that,
think
so I guess I have no idea.
I'm on the fence about it, and I will continue to be unless there's evidence one way or another, because I think there's probably a basis for most of the characters in the Bible.
I'd say there's at least a factual seed.
Yeah.
That started whatever this turned into.
Yeah, there was probably
somewhere.
I think there was a King David who did stuff.
Maybe it wasn't even called David because a lot of the names are symbolic, and David's is as well. So
not only that, the names change in translations too. So whatever. There was probably someone that King David was based on who probably did do some conquests and was probably successful.
The math has got to be off. There's no way this scale of warfare went on without historical. Like there's not even artifacts of this kind of thing, and we can find battles on large scales of other civilizations in roughly the same amount of time.
The Bible Skeptic did a really good episode recently that I watched. It was about...
He's great, by the way. We're going to link to him.
Yeah. He did a really great video about this one archaeologist who's a biblical archaeologist.
Oh, that guy.
Thinks he found the city of Jericho and evidence that it fell. Basically, this archaeologist is putting evidence, or it isn't really. He's trying to validate a biblical account, and it isn't. And I'm not saying he has 0 points. I'm just saying he's probably wrong. And Brett, the Bible skeptic, makes a very good rebuttal of this guy's claims.
So I guess this turned into kind of a shout out for Brett Palmer. So I'm going to put his thing up right now. Click on this because Brett Palmer, while we do like a comedy show,
and we kind of just talk
like
about
a literary,
it's casual.
It's a casual literary analysis at best. He breaks the shit down out of everything. He's done Job, which was incredible. I actually watched all of it, and it's amazing. I'm going to watch it again before we do Job personally, just because there's so much that goes into it, and there's so many claims made by it. But he's incredible. He's severely undersubscribed, and I would love for all of you to subscribe to him immediately and just go check out something because he's just so good.
Yeah, if you like what we do and you want something that's more in-depth, like by a lot, and is very well-researched,
his production value is great, and he has dulcet tones.
Yes, he's awesome. So check him out. Other than that, thank you for watching. You can always follow us on Twitter.
You can follow Hugo at Hugo Reloaded.
You can follow Jake at Bible Reloaded. You can donate to our Patreon. There's a clicker, clickety-click. We're almost to our $1,000 goal, which means the Quran Reloaded will enter pre-production. Once we get it, don't get us wrong, it'll take a while to get it up started because we have to do research, and then we have to figure out...
the format because we want to make it easier on us. Because if we do it in the same way we do this, we'll never have time for life.
Yeah.
So it might actually involve cameras and stuff, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And also we might be in separate locations at points, so that's going to be a logistical issue that we'll have to figure out how to do that. So you can also subscribe, which is a thing that we are now asking for since we have this neat graphic.
Totally.
And
Totes.
we had not been doing that. But,
hey, if Mr. Deity's watching this, hello.
Hi, Mr. Deity. You want to be on a chick tract? You should say yes.
Yeah, he subscribed to us recently. I talked about it in our in my Ask Hugo one recently. But yeah, Mr.
Big fan of
Deity,
him.
he's super cool. Nice
I
guy.
actually, before we did any of the God stuff, like in the God's office, I had not watched Mr. Deity, and then someone's like, "You guys are just like him."
Oh, I've seen that.
I
saw him
know you
before.
had, but I had not. And then,
We're big ol' ripoffs.
I didn't know. But
What we do is different, but he's very funny, very clever, very good. Makes very good videos.
Yeah. So
hi, Mr. Deity.
Love you.
Anyways, until next time, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this has been The Bible Reloaded.
And next week, we'll just have 30 straight minutes of me being strapped to a bed while Hugo tortures me.
Oh,
but like sexy torture.
I'm not even into this, but you said it now, so now we gotta do it. Damn.
Yeah. Like nipple clamps and stuff.
Fuck. You know, the next times are binding, you asshole. Why would you put that on us?